executives, leaders, founders, how can you use these tools to actually get your job done better, faster, with less waste? I don't know if Airbnb is going to be knocking on my door looking to implement this idea. If you have a laptop and an internet connection, you're going to be able to literally just copy exactly what I'm about to show you.
Is it fair to say that your competition is actually not V0, all these prototyping tools, but it's actually... First question that I want to ask Alex is, what is Bolt and what are you going to show us today? What can people expect to see by the end of this event?
Absolutely. Great question. Thanks for having me, by the way. Excited to meet some of the 10X community here. Bolt is a tool that allows you to turn your ideas into software. And some, people might call that a vibe coding tool in 2025. I'm not a big fan of that phrase. I'm trying to popularize the term software composing. And, I don't want to be a vibe coder. I want to be a software composer. And I feel like that better represents what you're really doing, which is taking different elements, and working with an AI building partner to turn those elements into software. So today, we are going to show you exactly how to do that, specifically focused on folks that want to use AI at work. So I'm thinking product managers, designers, business people, executives, leaders, founders, agency owners, etc. How can you use these tools to actually get your job done better, faster, with less waste than the current approach that most organizations are taking to creating software?
You're probably wondering, why is he wearing this hat? I'll tell you why. I'm in New York City. It's like 30 degrees. I don't want to freeze my you-know-what off, but this isn't about me. It's about you. You have given us your time watching this video, and we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you. So we turned this whole episode into a playbook on our website. Just click on the link in the description, and you can get the whole playbook with prompts, with steps, all the details you need to apply this to your work. Check it out.
Awesome. Okay, so you're coining the term software orchestrator, right? Did I get that right?
Composer, and I'm not
software composer.
I can't take credit though, because I think if I have my cultural archaeology correct here, Riley Brown on YouTube is really, that's where I first saw the term like 12 months ago, and that one is, it hasn't stuck culturally en masse, but there's some of us out here pushing for it to win.
Got it. Okay, well, we have some more recommendations in the chat. We have vibe engineering, interactive imagination, creative construction. So just in case you need some more ideas, we have a bunch of good ideas in the chat over here. So that all makes sense. Okay, so you basically want to walk through how can you use Bolt at work, whether you're an agency owner, a founder, whatever you do for work. You want to show people how to use your tool in order to do that. In order to superpower, in order to give yourself a superpower, if you will. What are you going to show us today in order to get us there?
Absolutely. So if you're a product manager at a big company, you have a couple tough challenges that you probably have faced as you've had great ideas that you want to implement for the product. And we're going to focus on two of those specifically today. The first one is, how do you get buy-in for your idea, right? You may have a bright new idea that you want to implement in the product, but in order for that to happen, you've got to get leadership to approve. You may need design resources to get mock-ups going. There's a lot of steps and approvals that you need to do before you can actually you can't just walk over to engineering at a large company and say, hey, I've got a bright idea. You want to build it for me? People have roadmaps and limited resources. So that's going to be the first topic, is like, how can you use a tool like Bolt to get leadership buy-in for the idea that you want to build? And the second question that we're going to answer is, if your organization doesn't have a tool like Bolt, how do you get approval to bring that tool in-house? Turns out the answer to that question is largely one and the same. And so we're going to start this thing out in classic live stream fashion with a demo of how to use the tool to solve both of these problems that you may have at work.
Got it. Okay, so basically the scenario you're walking us through is you want to get buy-in. You're a product manager at a company. You want to work on something and you want to get buy-in from leadership so that you can then get resources to actually go build it out. And so essentially the example that you're going to walk us through is prototyping. Is that right?
100%. Yeah, that's where everything starts. And so that's where we're going to begin the conversation today.
Awesome. So before we jump in, what do people need to know? Where do they need to be? What level of expertise does somebody need to have in order to benefit from what you're about to show us?
I would argue if you have a laptop and an internet connection, you're going to be able to literally just copy exactly what I'm about to show you. And whether, you work at Microsoft, Amazon, Uber, what have you, the same exact process that we're going to follow right now will work for you to build prototypes at large organizations. And if you work at, like an agency or you're founding a startup, etc., then your life's even easier because you've got less like restrictions and requirements. So certainly you'll be able to also follow this same exact approach that we're going to do today.
Awesome. Okay, sounds good. So basically the bar is the floor. We can, no matter who you are, you can walk into this and you can get the benefits that you're going to walk us through. So what is the first step? Lay the background, like what is the scenario and what is the first step?
Absolutely. So let's see if I can share my screen here. So first step, you need to have an idea. Okay. You need to have an idea. You're a product manager, you're a designer, you're an entrepreneurial person. I think you've got an idea. So we'll take that. Today, the idea that I'm going to run with is, I'm going to basically act like I'm a product manager at Airbnb because I've got a personal, feature that I would like to see added in Airbnb. I do real estate is one of my side hustles, and I rent out furnished properties. So we're in my actual hosting account here. So hopefully I don't expose anything too sensitive. So this is I'm going to walk you through kind of the problem and the idea. Okay, so with this property that I have, I rent it out for 30 days or more. And so I'll demonstrate what this looks like. So if I select, let's go with 2 months here. So I want to rent the property out. There's this modal in Airbnb that I want to change. Okay. So it's this price breakdown modal for a theoretical reservation. So this would be a 61 night reservation. And as we can see, it breaks out. Let's see. Am I still coming through here? Okay, perfect. So this modal breaks out taxes, but because I rent this property for longer than 30 days, these taxes are not, it's collecting some taxes that I really don't want it to be collecting. That if I was renting it out 3 nights at a time, there's these local short-term rental taxes, blah, blah, blah. That I really don't need to pay because I'm doing these long-term rentals, but there's no way for me to change this. So I'm now putting myself in the shoes of I'm a product manager at Airbnb. I've recognized this issue and I want to build a prototype to demonstrate what it would look like to solve this for our users. So does that make sense, Arman? Is kind of like the setup here?
Yeah. So wait, just so I understand, basically you have all these properties and when you go to Airbnb, you can rent them out for short term, like 1, 2, 3 days, whatever. And if that's the case, there are certain taxes applicable. Then if you do longer than 30 days or whatever threshold, then the government or IRS or whatever, like bucket or local taxes, I
Local
suppose.
in this
Bucket,
case, yep.
So local taxes would bucket this transaction not as short term, which would lower or maybe just change your tax liability.
Yep.
And so you're basically proposing that Airbnb ship a feature that understands all these different taxes granularly and has just like rules that encapsulate those and make sure that the taxes are accurate. Is that right?
In this case, we're just going to put the power in the hands of the host, right? If I was a PM at Airbnb, I'd probably go with what you're describing. Okay, little stay through. But what I actually want to do is be able to just edit it myself. You know, as the host, I want to decide which taxes I'm liable for and have an easy way to collect those.
Yeah.
So it's a good demo.
So you can like decide your withholdings. You don't need to withhold anything.
Yeah.
I see.
And because these are actually being charged to the guest, you know, it affects like the total price of the listing, etc. And Daniel in the chat says, this is either a horrible idea or a brilliant one. Oh, he's talking about his idea, but that completely applies to my idea here too. I'm like, you know, I don't know if Airbnb is going to be knocking on my door looking to implement this idea, but nonetheless, it's the one that I thought of. So now we're sitting here and let's get this, you know, a demo, a prototype built of this. So we're on the actual Airbnb site here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a screenshot of this modal. That's not all that exciting, but it's a good start. And we're going to go.
Did you take a screenshot of the entire screen or just the modal?
I did just the modal. And so you can actually see that screenshot here that I've got pasted into Bolt. And then, okay, that's the start, but that is not nearly enough in my view. And this, I don't think I've seen anybody else talking about this, but this is the next step. So screenshot's great to capture styles, but we have access to the code here, right? So if you just right click on the modal and hit inspect, this is going to open up Chrome DevTools, and this might look pretty intimidating, but trust me, you do not have to have any idea what's going on here. So if you just right click and hit inspect, you can actually see that it's highlighted the particular part of the code that builds that modal. And, you know, as we're hovering over the code, you can see it actually highlights the modal. So you know you're in the right place. I know this is looking a little developer-y. I don't want to scare anybody, but look, we're going to right click and we're going to press copy element. Okay. This is real hacker developer stuff, right? So then what that does is it just copies the actual code, that builds that element.
This is super interesting. I wonder, have you guys ever thought about building and maybe you already have this actually, like a Chrome plugin where you can have like a Bolt Chrome plugin and you can just select an element so that it automatically copies it to your board.
So we, coming soon, unreleased feature, we're going to have the ability to take elements or just clone entire pages in so that you can prototype off them. Now, here's the thing. If you are a bit technical and you do work at a big company, you're probably thinking like, okay, fine, but like, cloning it, like that's not really gonna be using like our enterprise design system. It's sort of a close likeness of it, but we're not really going to be able to reuse that code, et cetera. More on that to come. But right now you're just a PM trying to get approval for these AI tools. So you don't have all the internal engineering support and you need to get a prototype out the door to build internal consensus, and we'll worry about code reusability later. So we've now got a screenshot. We've now got the code. The third step is we're going to right click on the code again. And this time we're going to copy the styles, instead of, just the actual code. So, you know, we could have a lecture about styles if we wanted, but this is not a how to be a developer. This is how to not be a developer and still build high quality prototypes with Bolt. So we're just going to go ahead and paste in the styles. Now we need to give Bolt a prompt. So I already wrote out my prompts here so that you don't have to watch me type some boring prompts. So what this prompt says is I pasted a screenshot of the Airbnb modal, and the code from Chrome DevTools. as well as the entire CSS, that's styles for the non-developers below that. And then basically we're just asking Bolt to create an accurate template that shows the modal, same font, same styles. And we're just letting it know, don't worry about backend or any of that because we're just prototyping. And we need a very clean template because we want to be able to build on top of this. So that is where we are at. Now
Are there any like secrets to prompting on Bolt?
Yes. So there absolutely is. I have a lot of thoughts on prompting. At a high level, right? The way that you should think about prompting is you want to give as specific guidance as possible. Like you're talking to a developer, right? Or like you're sending a Slack message to a developer. If you think about what is the maximally specific way to describe some code that you would like to have built, it would be the code itself, right? So if you actually have a code representation of what you want, then you could send that to a developer, they'd paste it in the code base. Of course, we can't do that. Otherwise, why would we be, you would just write the code yourself. But how specific can you be is really the question. So I think it's really important to think through and learn topics that allow you to have the language to very specifically describe digital products. So in the design world, for example, if you want the user interface to look exactly like you want, it's not really like that hard. But if you know a few words like padding, margin, font weight, right? Alignment, hero section, just the kind of the language of design, you're going to get incredibly better results than if you're just kind of talking like more casually like you would to a friend. So I think that would be my first tip is learn the language of digital products. And it's never been easier to do that because you can just fire up your favorite chat AI product and have conversations all day about just teach me the language of design, of product management, of software development.
Totally. It's interesting. This reminds me of a story that I had from like 2 days ago where there was this client that we have that is deep in CPG. This person's a CPG veteran and they sent me a white paper for this project that they're working on, but it was deeply technical from a CPG perspective. Mm-hmm. So we used a bunch of CPG jargon. I used a bunch of industry verbiage and stuff like that frankly I just did not understand. And so I literally just took that white paper, I put it in ChatGPT and I said, hey, ChatGPT, can you rewrite this entire document for me? But I don't know anything about CPG. So just rewrite the entire doc for me and like someone who does not know what these words mean. And it was incredible. So I almost think like the opposite could also be true, right? Like you imagine you want to build some project and you just use like normal lingo and you ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to turn it into deeply technical design language and see, I wonder which one would perform better in Bolt.
Yeah, well, I mean, I that would be a great test. It would also be a great learning opportunity because it gives you the opportunity to clear between the two documents, one highly technical, one in your language, and that's a great way to upskill yourself. So yeah, I mean, I think that's an exercise that folks should absolutely do and go the other direction, right? Write something out the way you would write it out and then ask either planning mode in Bolt or, your favorite chat tool to create more specificity and convert it into, design, product management, engineering type language. And, it's just such a great way to learn those words and phrases. You don't have to do what I did when I got my first job, which was secretly keep a list of all the acronyms and words and phrases that I didn't understand. And then, ask a few here, a few there to different colleagues over my first months on the job,
totally. Yeah. We have that colleague in our pocket 24/7 now. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the project we're working on. We're trying to Like you are a PM at Airbnb in this scenario. You want to allow the Airbnb hosts to determine their own tax withholdings as opposed to having it be automatically calculated. So let's see where it's at. You prompted Bolt in to get it to build everything. So let's see where it's at.
Absolutely. So let me share my screen again here. So our prompt has completed, and
I can't see your screen, by the way.
yeah, of course, I chose to reload this page for no particular reason. Let's see here. So the preview is loading back up, but as we can see, Bolt made this plan, and it's all good. It even wrote us a README, so we can actually open this README, and it's kind of describes the purpose of the project, key features, etc. So that's a nice little capability it has. Other thing that I would point out here, since we were talking about like planning and chat and everything, this plan mode in Bolt is how you can have discussions with Bolt where it has the context awareness of your code base, but it's not going to go and write any code. So that's great for these learning, testing, planning, kind of scoping conversations. So, okay. So now we have our modal here, and we can see here, it's not 100% perfect style wise, but it's very, very close, as we can see here, with the original modal. The one thing I'm not liking is this button. So I'm going to just use this as an opportunity to demonstrate some other capabilities here. So we have this visual selector, so you can grab elements on the page here, and you can say, this doesn't exactly match the original design, should be more rounded corners. And then just for good measure, I'm just going to put a screenshot of this exact button in case it forgot. It's kind of interesting because there's just like a aspect of randomness to how these tools work as well, since AI is non-deterministic. I tested out these prompts, before the live stream, and it was just like perfect design.
Totally.
And then, the next time it comes back looking not as good. The important thing to think about there, if you're new to using these kind of tools, is, okay, this is a minor little thing, so I'm just going to fix it. But if you're working on something really complicated and you're just like, what? That didn't work very well. Oftentimes the right answer is just to start over. Just try you're on your first prompt. Like, don't go wrestle with it trying to fix it. It probably just stuttered, due to the non-deterministic nature of the model. So just put your first prompt stuff in ahead, again, into a new one, and you're very likely to get a better result. Or in this case, a worse result, but a good opportunity to demonstrate how you can kind of tweak aspects of the design once it's built.
Totally. Well, this is something that AI labs do behind the scenes in order to bolster their numbers, if you will. So it's called consensus. And so you can do like const 6, const 7, const 62, whatever. Like you can have, you can get consensus on as many runs as you want. But if you look at graphs, I'll never forget Grok 3 when it came out, that model, it had a blue, it had a bar chart, and all of the Grok bars were blue. And it said that, Grok is better than every other model in the world. But the blue was 2 different shades of blue. The bottom bar was darker and the top bar was lighter. And the top bar, the bottom bar, was basically aligned with every other model, every other state-of-the-art model in the world. But the light blue bar was 20% better on every single metric. That light blue bar, the difference was that it did consensus. Basically, it ran the exact same model on the exact same prompt 60 plus times. And then they just take the best, it chooses its own best solution, or the consensus solution. So behind the scenes, the labs are doing this anyway. So I totally agree. If you're running it once, it doesn't work, run it again, run it again, run it again. Like that alone might make it good. And if you improve the prompt, that can make it better. I absolutely think that this is iterative. And already this looks much better.
Yeah, that's I hadn't seen that report that you're talking about, but that does not surprise me at all. And I'm glad to hear that there's strong data behind this, because it's such a noticeable anecdote when you just try to build stuff with Bolt that I could not agree with that approach more. But in this case, this wasn't like our whole thing was super screwed up. We just didn't have the rounded corners. Now we have the rounded corners. No big deal. I'm not going to start over for something like that. So, okay. So now we've got our modal built out here, and now we need to add our new capabilities. So, basically what I'm thinking is when I hover over the taxes, I just want like an edit button to appear and then to take me to another modal where I can change some settings. So I went ahead and wrote this prompt out as well so that you guys don't have to watch me do that. This is a very long prompt. So basically we're saying when hovering over the div that contains the word taxes, we want this editable button and that says adjust tax collection, and then it, take us to a new modal where we can make those changes and let us save those. So now this part, you'll notice, why is there coloring and like formatting and stuff? That's because I copy pasted the tax rules out of ChatGPT. And this is another reason why it's really handy to, if you're thinking about this from the lens of a product manager, I don't have to hand this very gnarly set of rules and calculation stuff over to someone else and be like, read this document and now go make the thing, and hope that they like understand the math and the logic of how the taxes should work and how to turn that into UI. That's what product managers used to have to do. Write a PRD, a product requirements doc, that laid all this out clearly enough that someone who's not a tax expert and not a software developer could figure it out and represent it in Figma. Then that person, the designer, would go make the pixel perfect Figma mockup, then hand it over to the engineer. And we're able to just short circuit a lot of that all of those like translation taxes between disciplines here. Totally. So yeah, then I wrote this part, just, we're going to use this to recalculate the amount of taxes collected. And then I'm just saying store the values locally. Don't worry about like setting up a database or anything, because I'm not trying to actually make Airbnb here. I'm trying to just get my idea approved. So we'll go ahead and paste that prompt in here. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is, this is a little bit more complicated because I'm adding UI to this page. I'm setting up a new modal. There's math and calculations and everything. So I've been using Sonnet 4.5. But I'm going to actually switch to Opus for this, which is a new model from Anthropic that is so good. I've just been extremely impressed with this model. It can be a little bit slower, but it has like more reasoning capabilities, and it's just a very, very impressive model. So we'll kick that off, and let that do its thing. But have you tried Opus yet, Arman?
Oh yeah. Opus is like a stepwise improvement. And it's always funny whenever these new models come out. I always am skeptical because I've been jaded by some models that come out and they're just, they're so behaviorally different. Like if you remember when 3.7 came out,
yeah,
it was like, everyone was calling it like the ADHD model because it was just so distractible and it would go down rabbit holes and all these things. But since then, I think all of the, I actually think OpenAI as well, like all of the labs have been showing really steady progress, which has been great. And I think 4.5 has been remarkable. And I actually like, this kind of leads me to, is there anything that you want to talk about while this is thinking?
I'll just point out the plan here just because I find this interesting. It's nothing you necessarily need to worry about, but it is cool just to understand how the tool is thinking, right? So in the way it breaks this stuff down. So it's actually creating like a calculation utility, probably using JavaScript. Tax calculation.typescript. So, I mean, this is nerdy stuff that you really don't need to know, but it's just if you're trying to like educate yourself and learn more about how digital products work, it's kind of cool because you're like, okay, so it's actually writing this file. And if you want to like go look at it, you can go in here into the source folder and it hasn't actually push it to the file system yet because it's still writing it. But you'll be able to actually go and look at that file and look at how it works, audit it, make sure the math is good. And then it's adding the hover button, it's creating the new modal component, and then it's integrating that into the UI. So it just gives you the ability to actually, because I'm just sending this. Normally when I'm building, I'd use plan mode so that I'd actually understand the plan before I greenlight it, but that's kind of boring for a live stream. So I'm just like, go for it. But you can at least see like it came up with a plan that you can credibly believe would accomplish our goals here. So, and then it kind of breaks down everything that it's done. And, looks like that all looks good. So now when we go over here, we have our adjust tax collection button. And actually before we do that, so you can see we should be paying the guest will be paying $1,082 of taxes. We can come in here, we can adjust the calculation.
Oh, this is cool.
And we have our modal. So, okay, state and local taxes, cool. Maybe we don't think we're, to be clear, like the actual tax situation's a little more complicated than maybe I'm making it out to be here. So I do plan on paying all of my short-term rental occupancy taxes, Nashville. But let's say,
dear IRS, Alex will pay his taxes.
Yes. But if we wanted to remove withholding, right, we could turn that off here, save our settings, and we can see the withholding has dropped significantly. If we don't want to withhold on the state side, we could say that. Now we're withholding zero taxes. There we go. So we have fundamentally built a new capability that we can now go ahead and share, and we'll generate a private invite link here, and we can now share this with anyone inside the company, build consensus, right? Get other folks to agree that we should actually go get maybe design resources to make this more better UI, and get approval to bring engineering in and actually scope this out. And I guess you'd probably need to bring your legal tax compliance teams in too if you were at Airbnb working on this. That is like that's kind of the first part of what I wanted to show today, which is how you can go from I have an idea and I want to get buy-in for that idea, and how to build something that actually looks like your company's product.
Yeah. So compare this to how it used to be, right? Like, why is this such a stepwise improvement?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you wind the clock back to today, how most people are still doing this, you have what's called the EPD, or engineering product design sort of cycle. Although it probably more accurately be called the PDE cycle, but nobody says it like that. But so if you're sitting in the chair of a product manager, you have a new idea. The first thing you got to go do is write out a product requirements doc that would explain, what everything we kind of talked about at the top of the call, why this is an issue, why you think you should make a change to the product to do so. And then also defining all of the tax rules and everything, writing out in words exactly how you think the user interface should look, and all of that, just to get, approval to move forward with the idea. So, and that doc needs to be comprehensive. So every aspect of the product change that you're wanting to make needs to be explicitly explained in Word.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how is the rest of the company going to know, like, what you want it to look like when you click on? I mean, we're talking about down to like specific stuff like, okay, if we I'll pull back up what we built here and we can talk through some of the things that you and I didn't even discuss that you would need to specifically define in this PRD. For example, okay, I don't think we said anything about a toggle, right? But if you wanted it to be toggle, okay, when you deselect the toggle, do you want it to be grayed out, or do you want it to be like a tray where it slides up and disappears completely? Or do you actually want the user to be able to edit these percentages, right? Like you have to define all of those little details in the PRD. Whereas, with what we're working with here, maybe we don't like the way that this currently works. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But either way, we don't have to painstakingly explain what we want. If we want, when you disable a certain tax to just have it slide up, we can tell it that, right? And we can represent that in our prototype at full fidelity and let whoever we're sharing with actually play with it and kind of touch and feel the experience. So that's a pretty powerful aspect to this. Then, in the old way of doing things, right, you would then pass that PRD document off to design. Now design has to go and use a tool like, InVision back in the day, or Figma today, or Canva, and go make a pixel perfect recreation of your document based on what you've written. That's time consuming and difficult, right? When they could be working on a host of other tasks like improving the design system, working on branding, like working on improving the design and flow of features that are already in production. Like, let's keep in mind, this doesn't even have leadership approval necessarily at this phase, right? Because they want to put it in front of users, get user testing reactions and feedback, etc. So now we've got a whole second deliverable, time consuming, detailed deliverable that's got to get made, a pixel perfect design, right? Now you could take that potentially, if you made that design clickable and everything, which takes even more time, you could take that and put that in front of users for user testing and executives, right? And then finally, we're ready to build the feature, okay? And we've made two very painstaking, time-consuming deliverables, a PRD and a visual design. Now we're going to give both of those documents to engineering, who's going to read them, ingest them through their eyeballs, throw them in the trash, and start completely over at the beginning, rebuilding this thing in code from scratch.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to actually think about the level of wasted like human talent and effort. And we're assuming that the idea has translated effectively and perfectly every time from written word to visual pixels and then ultimately to code. If it breaks down at any point in that due to fidelity loss of translating from one medium to the next, you got to go back to the beginning of the cycle and run it through again. So that's like largely how this works today. And with tools like Bolt, we're here to help you and your engineering, product, and design team, do this in a way that's more efficient, more effective, and frankly, like a lot more fun for the people involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. We get every single day. I have so many conversations with CEOs and other executives basically saying, I need my product team to move faster. And when you get down to it, fingers on keyboards in 2025, 2026 is actually the fastest part of the process. The slowest part is exactly what you're talking about. It's getting everybody aligned, right? It's getting all these different cogs in the machine aligned. And the reason, to your point, is if you're the PM and I'm the designer, right? We speak two different languages. You speak PRD, I speak mockup, and PRD is by definition low fidelity, right? It's words, it's human language. And so the ability to communicate, like it's like playing telephone where people speak different languages. We are not going to be able to fully communicate. By giving everybody a sandbox where if you say, hey, I want you to invent a new iPhone, and you give me a computer, I need to use some software to like design it in 3D. But if you give me a piece of clay, I can design it much more easily. And what you're basically saying is, hey, let's give everybody clay for software. That's actually the name of a software, but like, let's give everybody like a piece of a tool that they can use to really morph their ideas and just generate higher bandwidth ability to communicate ideas. And I think that makes a ton of sense. I have a big question for you though, right? Like there is Bolt. And I know you know this question's coming, and I know you guys probably get this question a trillion times, but I want to address it to basically understand how you guys position yourselves and if the PM use case is the one. So there's Bolt, there's Lovable, V0, Replit, now Google AI Studio. There's also Claude Code on this side, right? And for me, I always think about like every Figma Make as well. I see in the chat. Thank you, Daniel. Like whenever there's a tool, it's about the use cases that make the tool. I can use a wrench to hammer a nail into a wall, but I don't do that. I use a hammer, right? And so the use cases are what cause differentiation. So I'm curious, is this prototyping use case the one? How do you see this space evolving, and where do you see Bolt's spot in it? How do you think about all that?
Great question. So to answer it, we got to back up to your clay analogy with the iPhone, right? The problem with a lot of these vibe coding tools and the current state of the space, and honestly with what we just demonstrated, right, is you don't make iPhones out of clay, right? You have to have all these components and chips and glass and everything to make a real iPhone. You can make a compelling mock-up of what it feels like to hold it and what it might look like with clay and some paper and, some drawings.
Yeah.
But in order to actually deliver the product, you need to be building with the components that actually end up going into the final product. Okay. So for digital products like software, websites, at large companies, the components that go into making the final product are called the design system or UI library components, right? And what those are is basically pre-programmed, like that modal that we made, right? At Airbnb, they have a component that's already made. That's their, modal component for.
Yeah. It's like the camera component here, right? Like this is the same exact thing on every iPhone, whatever number.
Yep. And in the iPhone factory, they got a box full of those cameras. And in the Airbnb software library, they've got a predefined version of what every button, toggle, modal looks like, right? So this is really where Bolt is differentiating ourselves product-wise, is we're focusing on professional digital product teams that want the prototype to be the product, right? So we're actually going to help you hook Bolt into your company's design system and UI library so that when you're building your prototype, you're actually building the product. And when you hand that off to engineering, you're not handing them a lump of clay that looks like your product idea.
Yeah.
You're actually handing them high quality front end code that's compliant with the enterprise code requirements and built on top of the pre-built UI library code of your organization, so that your engineering team can actually take that UI code and reuse it as they go to implement that, plug it into the back end, hook it up to the billing APIs, etc.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that your competition is actually not V0, all these prototyping tools, but it's actually Claude Code? Like it's actually like,
so it's funny that you
production grade engineering tool.
Yeah, that you say that, because we are actually using the Claude Code agent inside of Bolt. So we're closely partnered with Anthropic, and a few months ago,
we're all friends here.
Yeah. And a few months ago, when, Claude Code really started to cook, we just realized at this point in the evolution of this market, the agents have really become part of the infrastructure layer. Anthropic has raised, I don't know, don't quote me on this, $32 billion in the last 12 months. Okay. And they're dumping so much money into building these incredible models that pair perfectly with their agents. So we're leveraging that core infrastructure work and then layering on top of it the tools to make it extremely easy to use so that you have the best of both worlds, right? The ease of any of these consumer vibe coding tools paired with the professional grade quality that you get from Claude Code. And then all of that bundled up and integrated into your company's infrastructure so that you can actually reuse the code that it generates.
That's awesome. That makes total sense. So last question from me. You mentioned that Anthropic raised $32 bajillion. And there was actually a question in the chat that I want to bring up. Also talking about how you guys raised your own bajillions of dollars recently. You hosted the world's biggest hackathon. You raised from the chain smokers. Is that right? Did I see that right?
We raised from the chain smokers and we threw a hackathon kickoff party with the chain smokers.
Yeah.
Both of which were very cool.
Okay. So like you guys have had this incredible ride. What has been the best part?
That is a great question. I'm planning on doing a lot of reflecting over the next couple of weeks on the last year because it has been crazy. I mean, we've gone from like 13 people to over 60 people and, pivoted the entire direction of the company, and we're serving, like 80,000 paying customers now. And it's just been an absolutely wild ride. It's hard to pick like one favorite moment, but honestly, like sitting here right now, one of the favorite moments was just October 3rd of 2024 when we first put the thing online. Because it just started ripping immediately. I mean, we don't have time to go into the whole history of Stack Blitz and everything, but we were like a sleepy developer tool company. Bolt was like our last experiment that we were going to run before, honestly, we were planning to shut the company down and return remaining capital to investors because we had not really found like commercial product market fit in the way that we needed to. And this was like our last run at it. The team rallied around it like I've never seen before. And we built the first version of Bolt in about 3 months from like green lighting the project to October 3rd when we put it online. And that morning, just seeing it immediately just start ripping and people were coming in. It's a mind blowing. All of us are familiar with it now, right?
Totally.
But Bolt was the first tool in the browser that let you code with AI. And just people would come in, they'd paste something in. You're like, whoa, I actually got a website. Like I did not expect that to work. They're sharing with their friends. The thing was spreading like wildfire. And it was just incredibly gratifying to see this tight-knit group of folks that I've been working with at that point for 4 years. The original 7 people at the company started in like 2018. We're all still here. And to finally like have that thing where it's like, people love this. It works. They're happy to pay for it. We're delivering real value, and just seeing that take off and knowing that, through all the dark days and tough times, that had come before when we had, stuck together as a squad, it was finally gonna work out. That was honestly still probably, the most incredible, part of it, but the Chainsmokers concert was pretty cool too.
That's awesome. I mean, like Elon said that starting a company is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. And the fact that you guys did that and then basically set the foundation of AI coding, right? Like right now, everybody says that AI or software engineers are getting the best of the best when it comes to software engineering or when it comes to AI, because AI is so good at coding and all these things. You guys were, like you said, the first people to let the genie out of the bottle, if you will. And so I think that that is incredible. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. And I apologize to everybody who's listening live for the delay. But Alex Berger, thank you for joining us today. And yeah, excited to keep in touch and see what you guys do.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man. Bye, everybody.